Aang attacking the Fire Lord and the Fire Lord destroying the planet, they're both equally bad.
I mean, how'd you expect the Fire Lord to react when all his airships were destroyed?
That's what you fucking morons sound like. I'm gonna cut
Yeah.
that. I'm not gonna.
No, leave it. Those people need to hear. Look, this episode's coming out after the election, so those people need to wake the fuck up.
Yeah, regardless of whichever direction it goes, it's like, yeah, hey, pay more attention right now.
Yeah.
There's no brunch to get back to. There's that meme, like you can't ignore politics anymore. I'm sorry, you're an adult now.
I can't wait till I'm just sitting on my porch with a glass of OJ and just reading about the girl boss VP.
And look, okay, we're here to talk about
clapbacks.
Avatar: Legend of the Last Retrospective. This is the last one for Avatar: The Last Airbender, but I actually do want to focus on this political point because I think this is also a strength of the Avatar: The Last Airbender show, where it's like, they do constantly have to worry about saving the world, but that doesn't mean you can't enjoy the smaller things in life.
Mm-hmm.
It's a kids show, so don't like use it as a blueprint to live your life. But I think that's a good message to remind everyone too. Just because you get caught up in an important fight in social justice or something like that, you can help yourself to a beer every now and then, or whatever you fancy.
As someone with a big enough ego to like put the world's problems on my shoulders in a way where I'm like, only I can solve this problem, which is just you can't. So just you got to take it easy sometimes, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there is something wrong with like basically ignoring the news. 'Cause I think that's the other opposite. People either put way too much on themselves, or they just go like, well, I did my job on election day, and then they put their legs up and don't do anything.
Yeah, you see, the real problem is that they didn't vote out the Fire Lord.
Yes.
Today's episode, we're going over the series finale of The Last Airbender.
Zuko was all like, he's gonna burn down the Earth Nation, and then Sokka was like, "No, I can't do that. That goes against the Geneva Convention." and then Team Avatar was like, "Oh, you're right. We don't have to worry now." Weird way to end the show, frankly.
Feels like it kind of goes against the earlier messages of the series, but hey.
A little anticlimactic, but hey, thank God for those rules we put in place.
Yeah.
And thank God that a guy like Firelord would listen.
This episode's either going to be darkly funny because we kind of won, like, the literal smallest victory, or we plunged even deeper into the depths of hell itself. So I'm very interested to see what happens. I'm sorry, everyone.
Hey, it's either that scene where it's like, look, we got to bring peace now, but it's going to take a lot of work. Or Aang fucking had a rock fall on him before he faced the Fire Lord, and the whole Earth Nation burned down.
Where do we even start with this one?
I have no fucking clue, to be honest. It's the final. It's kind of a final movie, but like it's really just 4 episodes of the show.
I wonder if there was like a meeting with Nickelodeon where the creators were like, we kind of love to edit it together as a single movie, and then they just never got that opportunity to. Because like it does play out like an event film,
Yeah, it's basically a 90-minute film if you watch it without commercials.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe that like every episode has different directors and writers.
Yeah, the directors, I'll list them off right now. The directors are Ethan Spalding, Giancarlo Volpe, Joaquim Dos Santos. Actually, Joaquim Dos Santos did the final 2 episodes. Michael Dante DiMartino wrote the first episode. Head writer Aaron Ehaz wrote the second episode, our boy, obviously.
Our boy,
and
that we hate.
And Michael Dante DiMartino and Brian Konietzko co-wrote the final 2 episodes together as the creators of the series.
There you go.
Yeah.
Can't log it as a movie on Letterboxd though.
You used to be able to.
Probably because different directors.
So stupid. How many animated films have different directors?
Yeah, but I mean, it's literally like I don't think there's like an animated film where it's like, all right, this person directed the first 30 minutes.
And then there's that whole thing where it's like, oh, is it movie? Is it TV show? And I'm like, I just want to log it. I don't actually care about that
Yeah,
debate.
I need the world to know I was watching something today.
Exactly. That's why I use Letterboxd, so I can
Yeah,
get vindicated by strangers on the internet. I think we have to break down the plot for this one. We haven't really
yeah, this is
done
gonna
that
be
in this one,
different.
but there's a lot that happens, and I think it's safe to say it's mostly awesome. I do have a couple little things, questions or criticisms, but this is one of the great television series finales, I think it's safe to say.
Oh yes, entirely satisfying, I guess.
Again, okay, so we might.
Well, no, no. Well, I guess it's this weird thing where it's like, as an ending to a children's show, you can't do much better than this.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot. So let's just talk about it.
All right,
Because it opens up with a nice little training session between Zuko and Aang. They're all just chilling on the beach after
still
watching
at
the Ember Island players.
they're still at the beach house.
Yeah, and Zuko's like, "Come on, we're all acting lazy. Like we gotta get ready." You know, the big revelation is that Team Avatar thought maybe they'd sit out the comet because they already won the war. What else is there left to lose?
This is a strange opening.
Is it?
I mean, because it's just like I can't think of another thing where it's like the final is like, well, the gang was just hanging out on the beach, and it's like this is the war's coming. Like we know it's happening. I understand that they don't, but it's weird when you think about sitting down and watching it and being like, all right, it's kind of just like an average episode of Avatar at the start, and they do go to the beach. And they make some sandcastles, and Toph makes the entire city of Ba Sing Se, I think.
Oh yeah, with a little Earth King and his pet bear.
Yeah.
It's cute.
That guy doesn't... Spoilers, that guy doesn't come back.
And Zuko drops a bombshell on them that the day before the eclipse, his father welcomed him into his chambers with the other generals and Zula to discuss what to do about the constant Earth Kingdom rebellions. Because even though they won the war, basically, there are these pockets of resistance still that they just can't stomp out because, people don't want to be ruled with an iron fist. Shocker, I know. Then Zuko announces that, they'll keep fighting as long as they have hope. So naturally, the Fire Lord's like, you're right. We do need to snuff out their hope. Because he's a maniac.
Well, I do love that moment where he's like, that's not what I meant. And Zula's like, burn it to the ground. You kind of realize in that moment how little we've actually seen the family dynamic at play between Zuko, Azula, and their father. And even this brief little glimpse, it's kind of like it's a window into basically like why they couldn't show it, because it would just be too goddamn depressing. Like for a kid show to basically have to go all right, here's what we even Zuko alone is as dark as they would get. But to show those years where it was just Zuko, his father, and his sister, that would be that would probably push it a little too dark for a kid show.
Zuko tells them that his father intends to basically wipe out the Earth Kingdom all the way through Ba Sing Se and burning to the ground, which is the plan of a crazy person. And horrifying and just an unspeakable level of evil. He's basically dropping the atomic bomb on people.
Yeah.
With the power of the comet, because the Fire Lord and the Firebenders will get immense increase in their power and all that jazz.
I was just say, as a nerd, it's like you're watching it I'm geeking out just over fucking Mark Hamill talking about crushing the rebellion.
No, yeah. It's just,
it's just so crazy.
Yeah, it's a great little inverse of his role as Luke Skywalker.
Yeah. And they're gonna have a villain for whatever the fuck happens next with the Avatar franchise. I bet you Daisy Ridley's gonna be free.
Aww. She's got some stuff lined up finally.
Yeah, but didn't she say she's kind of not she's less interested in acting?
I think for a little while, but now I think she's more open.
She has that movie that's been on the shelf for a while.
Yeah, that's a Doug Liman movie. He's
yeah,
he's weird. So
Yes, that's the nicest thing we can say about
yeah,
him.
there's a lot to talk about there. Not like I don't know. I'm not saying like he's a creep or anything like that. I'm just saying like as a filmmaker, he's got a weird way of making movies, and I don't think it's gonna pay off for him in the long run.
Yeah, how many good movies has he made?
About half his movies are good, and the other half are not. Like it's weird. You never
Which
know
half
what
do
you're
you
gonna
put?
get. It's like a box of chocolates.
Which half do you put Swingers in?
I haven't seen it in a long time, so I don't feel comfortable answering that. Although I would put Edge
It,
of Tomorrow like way ahead of the pack.
yeah, Wedge Tomorrow. It's like every time I look it up, I'm like, oh yeah, Doug Liman did that because
Yeah, that's kind of his get out of jail free card forever now.
his movie Fair Game was nominated for the Palme d'Or. What?
Anyway, so
What?
so Team
What
Avatar
the
has to kind of settle into the fact
Team
that
Avatar never won the Palme d'Or. So now Aang has this added pressure of, like, he thought he could just sit this one out and be like, look, the idea was he was going to take over the Earth Kingdom when this comet came, but now, the war's over, man. Like, we'll get the guy later. But now it's like, oh, he's going to burn the whole fucking world down.
yeah, like there's this great cut to like a commercial where Zuko goes like, if you don't stop the Fire Lord before the comet arrives, like there's not going to be an Earth left to save, which is like Jesus.
That's some heavy stakes.
And here is where the episode starts kicking into high gear. Like, you talked about how like it's a nice casual calm opening, and then now it's like, oh no. Not only was it odd that you guys were all hanging out, that's like we might never hang out ever again. The back half of the first episode is really Aang trying to come to grips with the idea that he might have to kill the Fire Lord. He just can't wrap his mind around that because Aang at his heart like is a pacifist, and everyone else is like, come on, you like, sorry dude, you have to do it.
Like, even Sokka, who's like the goofball good guy of the group, he like cuts the Melon Lord's head off and it's like, that's how easy it is. It's like my dad always told me, always put one in the brain. Like,
well, no, Melon Lord is a great moment, and Toph doesn't get like a big ending in this episode.
Toph doesn't get an emotional ending, really, which is a shame, but she does help a lot.
Yeah, it's like the ideal supporting character,
But the big moment I think you brushed over is that the fight that gets instigated between everyone, it's like, again, we had the Melon Lord scene, everything's kind of just going like your average episode of Avatar. And everyone just can't seem to get around the idea that Aang doesn't want to kill the Fire Lord. And even Aang's very reluctant where, like, Zuko teaches him, he starts teaching him about lightning and, like, how to bend it. And it's like, you gotta make that shot count. And it's like, also, if you fuck this up, it's over. And he's like, well, it can't completely be over because we got the magic water. And there's also a lot of, like, cleaning up to be like, no, we can't do that because of this.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of that front loaded in this final. But the big thing is that Qatar, it's so fucked up. Qatar comes out with what you think is a comedy scene where she comes out with a picture. I was like, look, it's baby Zuko. And it's like a goofy baby picture, right? And then it's like, Zuko's like, that's not me, that's my father. And that's like the whole thing right there.
And I don't know. I don't know how any of them could still be frustrated with Aang after that. And thankfully the episode plays it smart and it shows that like, oh yeah, it is maybe not that simple for everyone,
Everyone involved has Aang had his whole people wiped out, but he's not just, the struggle with him isn't just whether or not to kill him, but it's part of how he's carrying the whole weight of his people's culture on his back, and like, so to keep it alive, he's like, I can't kill anyone. It's like, I'm the last Airbender, I'm the one guy who has to stick to this tenet,
Mm-hmm.
And everyone else is like, look, we all lost people in the war, sometimes you gotta make sacrifices like that. And he just can't bring himself to do it. And it's just like, he grew up, that baby grew up to be the worst person ever. But it's like, no, he was still a human being at some point. And it's a debate. It's an interesting debate and a heavy one. to throw on some kids. And I think that when a debate, like, I don't think people ever really grasp how big a debate that really is. I think if you can give an easy answer, you haven't really thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and unfortunately, you know, I think a lot more people in life are more willing to just immediately jump to, yeah, it's okay to kill him. Which I think is just as bad as immediately jumping to, no, it's you can never kill him. It's complicated.
Well, it's the baby Hitler question.
Yeah.
Right?
Would you go back in time and kill... I fucking...
That we talked about that in an episode before. Because I'm going... At the time of recording this episode, I'm recording, like... Or editing a bunch of other Book 1 and Book 2 episodes. And we did talk about that. And, like... Firelord Ozai and Hitler to draw huge comparisons. Because that kind of is, like... I think a fair comparison in terms of fiction. There are elements that surrounded them that put them on that path, you know, like at the end of the day, they do have the choice to determine what path they go on, but like no one wakes up and wants to become like a genocidal maniac when they're 5 years old, right? Yeah. like that's not a thing that happens, you know. There's deeper stuff to fix, and I think that also kind of complicates Aang's view. Well,
it's not difficult to see why Ozai's the way he is when his grandfather did commit mass genocide.
Yeah, I mean it's the lineage of genocide.
Yeah.
Zuko's the outlier. That's a bad family to be brought up in.
The one guy that backed down is like disgraced by his family. Yeah. So yeah, that would be a difficult thing about it. And Aang, I love that Aang at least throws out there, it's like, look, I agree, he's a bad guy, the world would probably be better if he's gone. But, like, he can't put that on himself. And it gets into, we'll get deeper into it, because, of course, that becomes his real journey in these last few episodes. But that's a heavy place to start. Like, the shift is kind of huge.
And originally, because this is a 4-parter, originally the creators said they intended it to be only 3 parts, but there was so much story that they wanted to give room to breathe that they kind of had to fight for like the extra episode this season.
From what I understand, the way the show was set up is that they, like, how do you put, they agreed to all 3 seasons at the start. Like, that was the contract. That was like, they had X number of episodes at the beginning. So to like go one over would be like a big deal. And I gotta be honest, I think the Fire Lord's making some good points.
No.
It's just great that, like, it's, you know, everyone's applauding a plan that is clearly bad.
I know, it's like, just there's no forward thinking on anything. Like, look, on some level, right? Like, if they were at least, like had a vision for, like, a future. Like, he's talking nonsense, but it's like a signifier of his power. So there's no, like, vision for the future. It's just like, I'm going to burn it all down so everyone knows I'm in charge. Like, that's what he's saying, basically. And it's like, who's going to be left? Like, the damage that would do to that world, like, that ends it for everyone, you know? Like the world doesn't come back from that. Or the people don't come back from that. The world would take, like, thousands of years to heal from that mass amount of damage. Like, yeah, it's a very scary thought and eventually a very scary image.
Maybe it's because I've never been in a position of power in my life, but what drives people like that? Because those people exist.
Yeah, I know, which is why, like, I'm even more okay now than ever that we don't really get any depth to, like, the greater, like, psychological analysis of Firelord Ozai. Like, he's just some dude who loves power, right? And, like, you're right, like, people are just like that sometimes in real life. And maybe you don't need to extend, like, too much empathy on that end, you know? So on some level, I do understand the Sokka thing of, like, see, it's that easy. But
yeah. Well, the other big line from, I think it's Sokka, who says, I think Aang says something like, I can't just go wiping out people I don't like. And then Sokka's like, sure you can, you're the Avatar.
Yeah. And then that sends Aang off into a tizzy because, like, you know, Sokka's a funny character. This is a very funny show frequently. But when Aang basically lashes out, he's kind of right. Like, No one
Yeah.
understands the pressure it's on him for like what you brought up about him carrying on the Air Nomad tradition and what that means for him as the Avatar. Like how he finishes this war will determine the next generation of people on their planet. Like
Yes.
that's a big deal, and no one can really understand that.
And it's a little bit of like the Superman problem too. Of like how far does Superman go?
Mm-hmm.
Be interesting if someone did a movie about that.
Yeah, that would be.
Would be interesting.
Yeah. No, but didn't you know people don't like Superman anymore? Apparently.
Yeah, no, Superman's boring.
Yeah.
But that's why this show doesn't work at all.
A little earlier in the season, we talked about how book 3 is kind of really good at setting off characters on their own journeys. You know, like they all have their own part to play in healing the world and eventually the final battle. And I think when I first saw this episode, I liked it, but I did not like that everyone ended up being separated for their final fights. I wasn't seeing it clearly for like why they were doing that. I was just like, no, I wanted them together, right? Like, and I think that's okay to want that. But you know, as I got older, I was like, oh no, this is perfect. Like they all have their own like thing to overcome, their own part to play in bringing down all this shit.
Yeah, just from a structure standpoint, they split them up perfectly and like keep like the plate spinning nature of it really well. Because sometimes it can feel really forced, where it's like, oh, someone's got to go and get the kryptonite knife from the pool or something.
Okay, look, I love BVS, but that scene of Amy Adams throwing the kryptonite spear in that puddle of water is only there so she can go get it later while they're fighting
I
Doomsday.
know.
Like that is bizarre.
Yeah. And I mean, like, you can feel like a little bit of that. Like, there's always going to be a little bit of that in any writing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, what are Sokka and Suki going to do? Oh, they got to take out the airships because that's how they're going to do this thing.
Yeah.
But it's like that at least makes a little more sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like Sokka's like the more like technologically like adept one, I guess. You know, everyone else is like Suki has her like real gymnastic style of fighting and stuff like that. And then Toph obviously is just like a war machine. So that's great.
Toph's just like the juggernaut. Like, you can't stop her.
Yeah.
Nothing can stop Toph.
You can't stop the Toph.
Yes, exactly.
That should be a shirt.
Oh, that would be amazing. Again, that's a little sad. Like I said, like, it is a little sad that Toph kind of doesn't get as much. She gets her own personal adventure with Zuko, though, and it doesn't go very well.
Oh yeah, let's talk about this then. So the very first moment in this where someone splits off is, of course, Aang, when something is calling him from the water by Ember Island, and he and Momo vanish overnight, and so Zuko and the rest of Team Avatar start searching for him, and Toph goes
Also,
with Zuko.
I gotta say this. Here's how much of a dumb motherfucker I am. It suddenly hit me why so many cartoons have animal sidekicks. And it's like, oh, so they can have someone to talk to. It's like, yeah, I'm fucking 27. It finally hit me. Like, it's like, oh, alright, that makes sense. That's why Momo's going along.
Also, I think you told me that like Momo was intended to be initially like the spirit of Aang's Airbender master, right? What was his name?
Yeah, I think so. I must have told you that.
Yeah. If you didn't, then I read it somewhere. But like, if you're carrying on that idea, because there's a lot of ideas in this that date back to a version of the show that we didn't end up seeing, and I'll explain that a little clearer later. But like, if you're going with that idea that Momo is kind of like the reincarnation of his airbending master, or at least like a continuation of the airbending culture along with Aang, like I think it makes sense, you know, more so than just Aang having to talk to someone. Like the pieces are there for it to feel more natural.
We were also before the podcast talking about My Mother the Car.
No,
so maybe the master did come back as Momo.
No, we're not doing that. And yeah, Toph and Zuko go together, but Toph doesn't get the big like emotional moment. She's just pouring her heart out to Zuko, something Toph does not often get to do. She's very more reserved than the other characters. And then even Zuko's like I'm sorry you had a rough childhood, but we kind of got to focus on finding Aang right now.
We got a lot to do right now. We got to find Aang, or else shit is fucked.
Yeah, and they obviously don't find Aang, but you get a return of performer Aang from the play.
Oh yes,
which is great.
Avatar State. Yep. It feels like they were just trying to get anyone who was available to come back for this last one.
It really does.
We'll get more into that.
Yeah.
But then we cut
I like
from...
it, though. But yeah, we'll get into it.
We cut from Zuko and Toph's journey. We cut from that to the Republican National Convention. Where Ozai crowns himself Phoenix Lord. Phoenix King. The title of the episode. And, yeah, and then he's like, Azula, I'm going to become the king of everyone. Because that's how this works. And you're not coming along. And she specifically says, it was my idea to burn everything to the ground.
Yeah, great. That is the Republican National Convention.
It is, yes.
That's what we're up against, basically.
And then they're like, nope, I'm going to become Phoenix King, but you will be the new Fire Lord. And Azula's like, oh, of course.
But, like... Yeah, that is like a crazy moment because like these people are just not human at this point. But like the moment Azula is even like temporarily challenged by someone who she's like devoted her whole life to worshiping, basically, she starts to like unwind, and it's starting to make her real scarier. And it reminded me of obviously this came way later, and we've definitely brought it up a bunch of times, but it did remind me of like Kylo Ren. When he finally took charge of the First Order at the end of Last Jedi, you know? And he, like, the moment Luke comes back to challenge him, and he just starts, like he's laser focused on one thing only and loses sight of everything else. That's kind of like what Azula reminded me of there, where it's like,
and he gets
scarier.
Kylo gets punked in front of all the soldiers.
Yeah, and it's awesome. Really would like to see a sequel to that movie someday.
Yeah, it would be great one day to get a good sequel to that film.
But this is good.
Abrams. Did J.J. Abrams ever, like, was he ever teased as, like, gonna do something with the Avatar universe?
I don't know. Just that one thing that we discussed where he was, like, credited as a writer on IMDb.
Oh, yeah.
And everyone was like, no, he wasn't. We don't know who started that. Like... Because
it was, like... There was that weird era where he was, like, he was supposed to do a Samurai Jack film... And then he was going to do like a Half-Life 2 movie.
Yeah, he's a brand now, so I don't know what he's got going on. But he got like that $50 bajillion deal with like Universal, I think, too.
How'd that go?
Oh, I don't know. It's still happening. Like, I forget. It's Universal or like Apple or someone's got like the J.J. Abrams business now.
It's got to be one of the streaming people.
Probably. But,
well, I mean, but he just produced Lovecraft Country.
Oh, yeah, which I haven't seen yet at the time of this recording, because I've been just rewatching these. So, I literally seen, like, nothing else. I've seen, like, one Abel Ferrara movie, and that's, like, it.
Yeah, I've been rewatching this, and not to get... I'm going to get real bummer for a second. But the first time I sat down to watch it was when it was announced that Chadwick Boseman had passed away.
Oh, man.
And I was like halfway through, and it like turned into a thing where it's like, I'm going to have to watch this a few more times because like I just couldn't pay attention to this.
Yeah.
After that came out. That was fucking rough. So if you're in the future now, that has just happened like 3 days ago even. Like,
fuck.
Just wild.
Yeah.
Just heartbreaking.
Yeah, that's one where you could just feel like the shockwaves of that. Like no one saw that coming. Like that is just a complete tragedy that we lost someone like that so soon.
It was one of those things where we were taking him for granted, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a talent because it really felt like it was another one like Anton Yelchin who unfortunately died, where it felt like we were just, even though they had like big movies to them, it felt like we were just at the beginning of their career.
Yeah.
And. No, that's just not going to happen, unfortunately. What a heartbreaker, you know.
Yeah, yeah. That's one that didn't like feel real.
I know it still really doesn't. Like it's like all these clips have been going around of him now, and it's like, nah, that couldn't have happened, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like that doesn't happen, and it fucking happened, unfortunately.
Mm.
What a fucked up, awful world.
I know. I know.
Fucking cancer bullshit.
No, and like
Thank-
to get even more real, and not to be one of those people that's like, oh, 2020, whatever, right? Like things are just bad right now, and sometimes it doesn't feel like it'll get better anytime soon, you know.
Yeah,
And it's like,
it's
why
weird.
why is this all happening at once? You know, and some
Mm,
stuff like Chadwick Boseman's passing, unfortunately, you can't predict or prepare for. You know,
yeah,
like sometimes it's just a tragedy that a human being lost their life. Like sometimes that's all there is to it, and you gotta appreciate them while you got them. You never know what battles people are going through. You know.
yeah. That's another thing. I mean, that's a whole other conversation, just about how people have been acting about his appearance for the past year.
Mm.
Which I don't want to moralize to people too much, but you know, I think it's more just a testament of how we need to stop this bullshit where we break down everyone's body language in interviews.
Yeah, that's
Which
gross.
is
Let's
like,
not do that
which is
ever.
yeah, it's become like the most infuriating thing now, and I think it was just the double whammy of like the recent Star Wars and the Game of Thrones final, because that was a big thing about that, where they released that cast reading of it. Remember, like the table read, and a lot of people didn't really look into the final.
Yeah.
And you know, who knows? Like, I don't know what's going through their heads. Although I do know what's going through Emilia Clarke's head, because she came out and basically said, like, "No, I agree with Daenerys."
Yeah. Well,
Which,
that
hey, what are
that
you gonna
that
do?
even that one's more complicated because she had, she'd struggled with her own health issues in the
Yeah, I know.
past.
Yeah, to bring it to that, which was another shocker to find out about.
Mm-hmm. And
Because I mean,
so,
not that we deserve to know these things.
yeah, I mean, at the end of the
No.
day, that's also important to remember that we're not privy to these people's lives because they're human beings and deserve their privacy too. So, like, when
Mhm.
someone, like, even I was saying, like, we're caught off guard by the passing of Chadwick Boseman. We also didn't have a right to know anything more than we had.
Yeah,
That's not our place. Like,
yeah.
sorry.
He definitely didn't owe us that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, which is it's a weird thing where people take ownership of celebrities, and that's like that's a real rabbit hole
Yeah.
of just what the fuck that is. Sorry to derail it like that.
No, no, I
It,
think it's
I
important to talk about, and I not to make light of that by any means, but I do think Korra allows us to also kind of dive into celebrity worship a little bit, not to get
definitely.
super, not to treat that lightly because that's a very heavy subject of conversation too.
Yeah, I just think that this was the exact moment when that happened while I was watching it,
Mm.
because I just realized it because my notes changed color.
Oh,
Because I wrote it with a different pen, so it like suddenly hit me. I was like, oh wow, that's when that must have happened. Um, damn.
we're still only on the first
Sorry
part.
to
No.
bring everyone down. Yeah. No, this is after that. Also, again, we get this interesting dynamic between Azula and Ozai, which again, like it's this window where it's like you kind of want more of it, but I think there's enough to put the pieces together of what that home life must have been like.
And I think, in spite of our criticisms of how Azula is sometimes handled in this show, while also still being a great villain character, I think this is the episode where I think they at least took it to heart, like of what Azula's going through, and that she's basically at the point of no return, but her stuff really is kind of like a tragedy playing
It
out,
came very, it came very close to satisfying me in that respect. Again, I still think my criticism stands from recently where I said, like, I wish there was just a few more episodes and this was like its own movie. Because it's like, how do I put it? Like, I think the fallout between with her and May and Ty Lee needed a little more exploration because that's a big factor in how she ends up behaving. And they don't even show up until the very end.
Yeah.
So, could have used a little more of them. And it almost feels like they maybe had stuff on paper because there's a hint that they might have had a storyline that they just didn't do.
Yeah, so no one has any luck finding Aang, and they turn to Zuko because he's the one who has experience tracking the Avatar, and so it's this kind of fun inverse of like, oh, he started the show chasing the Avatar, and now he has to end it chasing the Avatar a little bit.
Yes.
But for completely different reasons, and I love full circle shit like that. It doesn't always mean the story you're telling is like a compelling one, but when it works like this, I'm like, oh fuck yeah, give me that fucking 180 shit. That's good storytelling shit right there. And
there's a better one coming up, but we'll save that one.
Mm-hmm.
And before they run into June,
yeah,
the bounty hunter.
If I recall, voted the #1 ATLA baddie still.
Really?
Yeah, people online everyone's been inside for a while. I'm gonna let it slide.
Yeah, when was this poll taken?
They were inside before this. It's fine. They go to her because she can help track down Aang, and she gets this cool Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon style fight in the bar, which is awesome. And you get a nice little reference to like, oh, like I see you work things out with your girlfriend. It's she's referring to Zuko and Katara, so there's a little something for you Zutara lovers out there. And
she also she makes mention of your creepy grandfather.
Yeah,
which I'm glad someone acknowledged that.
Mm-hmm. And
that's like it's the only time fucking Iroh did something like that.
Do you know who wrote this episode?
Who?
The same guy who wrote the episode where Iroh was being creepy. Aaron, he has.
Hey now.
You've come full circle. You're still weird though.
What an arc.
Fuck that guy.
But this episode, we're now in the second part, which is the Old Masters. Let's just start because this is the editing here. We're jumping back and forth between the two stories a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like increments. So let's just talk about what Team Avatar goes through, and then we'll come back around to Aang.
Okay. There's actually a lot to talk about the Aang stuff too. So yeah,
definitely. But I think it would be better to end with Aang.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, June. They give June what is it? They give her this Aang's staff, which he left behind.
Yeah, and she tells.
Which is also one of those things where it's like, oh, he left his staff. That's like a big deal.
And I like that Sokka also we didn't bring it up, but like Sokka like posited like, oh, he could be in the spirit world, and then everyone's like, well, where's his body? Like,
yeah, I do like the problem solving of that. Although then Sokka thinks that fucking Appa ate Momo.
Look, Sokka's a good guy. He also has one brain cell.
Yeah.
So.
And it's working overtime lately.
It's like the buffest brain cell ever. And so June can't track down the Avatar because her little monster beast thing says the Avatar is nowhere to be found. He doesn't exist. And so instead, Zuko figures they should go look for Uncle. And so he whips out a stinky slipper that his uncle had.
Is that set up at all?
No.
Yeah, that's a little like, okay.
Yeah, that might be one of the moments, yeah.
Gotta let that one slide a little bit. But I was just like, I couldn't remember if like, is there like a scene where like his shoe gets knocked off and Zuko picks it up that they just go like, hey, we could use that. And I couldn't think of it. So yeah, they use June to try to find Uncle Iroh, and it leads them to the now broken walls of Ba Sing Se. And then June's like, well, I did my time. See you later.
It's like Seinfeld, where the characters are coming back for just like a line of dialogue, you know?
Yeah. It's a little better than the Seinfeld final. But...
No. I like this finale better, and I think it's handled way better here because everyone does have a part to play in saving the world in some way or another. June included, by leading them to the Order of the White Lotus. King Bumi, Sokka's master, Zhang, the first firebending master Aang met, and Grandmaster Pakku, who is now Grand Pakku. because he met Sokka and Katara's grandmother again, and now they're remarried.
More like gross Paku. I didn't like that development.
Oh, okay.
Hey, I wised up after fucking 60 years.
I mean, some people learn a little later in life, I guess.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean you marry the guy.
No, you're right. You're right.
Just a little odd. I had complaints about that revelation in the episode itself.
Yeah, I remember.
So, like, now it's like making a thing I didn't care for even worse.
I like Grandpaku though.
Yeah,
that's a funny name.
He's like, how about Grandpaku? No.
Yeah. And see, like, that's like a good character, but they do saddle him with like weird stuff like that. So like,
yeah,
like I don't know, it's bizarre. This is where like I start just getting goosebumps all the way through this finale, because like, when King Boomy's like, oh, look who's here, and you see everyone's like face and you get that like triumphant music and shit, and I'm like, all right, here we go. Like, you really feel like the domino's starting to fall, like, for like the event itself. And
the secret societies are cool now.
There's probably some stuff to explore here, and I would say that for what this episode is going for, I think it works well enough. But considering the last secret society we saw was the secret police, it's probably I would not have made this call. I guess.
If there's two lessons I've learned from Avatar, it's that secret societies are cool and secret police are cool.
No.
Good call, Kiyoshi.
No one's ready for the conversation about her being a fascist.
Hey, I've been reading that book. It's really good.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
She went through a lot.
Well, here, what are your thoughts on the White Lotus then? Because I feel like you have something to say.
No. I was just, it's like always a weird thing where it's like, okay, secret society that runs the show. I mean, what makes it work is that they aren't really in charge of anything. They're more just like, all right, when shit got bad, we went underground. And that it works a little better as like a rebellion group. It'll get weirder when they still show up in like Legend of Korra.
Yeah, and I would say the weirdness is mostly intentional, but again, something we'll have to explain later because there's too much to talk about here already.
Also, isn't there like a historic White Lotus Society or something?
I have no idea.
I think there was a White Lotus Society. I think it's China, and I think they rebelled.
Oh, that's kind of neat.
I don't think they won.
Oh.
But I think that's a historic thing. Correct me if I'm wrong, people listening.
Okay, here's a nitpick I guess I have then. So when Boomy's explaining to Sokka and Zuko, like, oh, I got out from Omashu and everyone else escaped, I didn't escape because he basically, took back the whole
army. City.
Yeah. He took back a city and took down an army, like, single-handedly. And then he's like, oh, did you guys do anything fun on the day of the eclipse? And they're like, not really. That's funny, but I don't understand why they just didn't say anything.
I also don't understand why Boomy wouldn't know about that.
Yeah.
Like, so, what you up to, White Lotus group? Like,
but again, maybe that's why the White Lotus work here as opposed to other secret society stuff, because they're not like, oh, we know everything happening at all times. It's just like, yeah, we all keep in touch.
Yeah, sure. I think those people should have been, hey, Iroh, when'd you escape?
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. Like, feels like they would have known about it. But then again, it's King Boomy who can recall his past lives. he can't really be trusted.
He eats rocks, Matt.
Like, yeah, he's got a lot going on there.
Yeah. Although another little nitpick, not actual criticism, is that the last time Aang saw Boomy goes, oh, like, well, I'll see you again when the time is right. They never see each other again.
Yeah, that's a little weird.
I just don't like that.
Hey, he must be there, though, at the ceremony.
Oh, yeah, but we don't.
Like, he must be in the crowd shot. Like, we just don't see them, like, embrace.
Yeah.
So
I would have liked for them to have a moment. That's all.
Yeah, and Boomy's like fucking one bad step away from fucking oblivion, so...
Yeah.
He's a fucking 100 years old. Although, like I said, I think Kyoshi lived to be 200.
Jesus. Yeah,
And
but that's Avatar Kyoshi.
She lived to be 200. She's 7 foot tall, and she's so powerful she split a continent in half. I like going on with Kyoshi.
Well, you can't all be Kyoshi.
Also, she's bisexual.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which was the reveal.
Nice.
Oh, speaking of fucking reveals, I found out fucking that punk ass Fire Lord Sozin outlawed same-sex relationships in the Fire Nation.
Oh, so he's extra bad.
Motherfucker. Fuck that guy. What a fucker. What was he hoping to gain by that?
I don't know. I don't know. What are Republicans hoping to gain by anything? You know?
Well, you can't give rights to gay people because that's also giving rights to women. And really, that's really what it comes to. Anytime you wonder why Republicans care about a social issue, it's because it gives power to women. It really does kind of come down to that. But Diego, the problem today is that the country's too divided.
But in the camp of the White Lotus, Zuko comes to Iroh's tent, and he can't go in yet. He has to kind of work his way up to it. So Zuko waits for Iroh to wake up, and he finally makes his way into the tent. And when Uncle Iroh wakes up, Zuko just starts pouring his heart out and saying how sorry he is, and he doesn't know if he'll ever be able to be forgiven. And then before he can even finish his thought, Iroh pulls him in for a hug, and they start crying, and I start crying.
Yeah,
and that's fucking beautiful.
Yeah, that's a great moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that really got to me. And he says, "I was never angry. I just thought you lost your way." But he found his way back, and he didn't need help.
Mm-hmm. And it's just the pride in his voice for basically his surrogate son, his nephew, is just so heartwarming. That's the shit that kind of makes you feel better about life.
Yeah. These cartoon people making me feel good.
Yeah, thank you for helping me avoid the real world for a little bit.
Not sure if that's what they want you to take away.
No. Of course not. But yeah, it's a terrific moment and one of the highlights of the finale for me. And so they sit down with Uncle Iroh and the members of the White Lotus to determine the next step of their plan. And Zuko asks Iroh to help him defeat the Fire Lord, and Zuko.
It says Father Lord.
Father Lord, excuse me.
Which is a moment.
Okay, see,
that's a very heavy, unremarked upon moment.
Yeah. But see, I liked that one versus the moment with Boomy earlier, where I'm just like, why is it there? At least there it's like, oh yeah, this is still complicated.
But see someone be like, I need you to defeat my father for me.
But then there's a very valid conversation they have where they discuss the ramifications of basically anyone else defeating the Fire Lord. Where Iroh's like, history will see it as a brother taking another brother down for power. It'll just continue strife across the globe, and there'll be too many problems for that. And it has to be Aang. It has to be the Avatar bringing balance to the world because he is representative of the world itself, right? That's basically what it comes down to. He has to bring balance that way.
This is all bigger than just who gets to be the next Fire Lord.
Mm-hmm. And I like that that's really not even a thought that comes into Zuko's head. That's how far he's gone from the path of darkness. He's totally focused on helping good triumph over evil, to the point where when Uncle Iroh brings up the idea that it has to be an idealist and someone with a fresh vision for the world, it has to be you, Zuko. Zuko's like, oh shoot, really?
Well, remember the last time Zuko changed his once in life, he fell into a medical coma. Yeah. So Zuko, he's reluctant to sign up for anything these days. Well, it's this. It's important that Iroh doesn't go take on the Fire Lord, because this whole thing started off really when Sozin let the last Avatar die. It's this circle of violence. It's not just the violence that has happened within, the Fire Nation itself. It's the violence they've done to the world, including wiping out the air nomads. And it's like this question of like, can the circle of violence end?
This isn't just like the final big battle, like how many big finales recently have been like, this is it, this is the final confrontation, and it's just like, wow, that was pointless. This meant nothing. And here it's like,
winter lasted like maybe 30 minutes.
I was trying not to bring it up. I was trying not to be specific. People could surmise of their own accord what I'm referring to.
Lando's got to bring all the ships. Remember when all the ships showed up? Wedge was back. Did you see Wedge? Did you see Wedge?
It can't just be...
Did you see Wedge? Sorry.
You can't just physically beat the bad guy. There's got to be more to it than that. And I think, in terms of fiction, that a lot of people sort of misread that, Like, people want the big action finale and stuff like that. And, like, yeah, like, that's fun for, like, a minute. But, like, I think the stories that last are the ones that go beyond just, like, here's an awesome moment where the good guy did a cool move against the bad guy,
Well, you remember how Empire Strikes Back ends with a giant space battle, right? Oh, wait, I'm sorry, I'm checking my notes. It ends with them running away. It's the big climax of that film.
So Zuko is going to go have to retake the throne from Azula, and Katara is going to go join him because he doesn't think he could take Azula by himself. So Sokka, Toph, and Suki are going to go stop the air fleet until, hopefully, Aang returns to face the Fire Lord. So everyone's got their own little parts to play, and the Order of the White Lotus are going to go conquer Ba Sing Se.
Yeah, they're gonna. Well, they're gonna liberate.
Liberate. Sorry,
yeah.
They say conquer, and I was like, you just say liberate. Because I think Iroh says, like, I'm going to go reconquer Ba Sing Se, and then I'm going to go reconquer my tea shop, and it's like, yeah, I forgot, he's still a war criminal.
Yeah, but hey, I do like that, though. I like that he's like, I had a vision when I was younger of conquering Ba Sing Se, and it's like, only now do I realize I'm going there to take it away from the Fire Nation and not take it for the Fire Nation.
Yeah, that's everything with Uncle Iroh on this is just like the best shit ever. So yeah, they all go about their separate ways, heading for their final showdown. But before that, we also have to go back and revisit what Aang is up to. So Aang is like, oh, I had the weirdest dream, and then it's like, oh shit, I'm in the middle of the ocean with Momo, and I have no idea where anyone or anything is. And he's still confused about like his destiny and facing the Fire Lord, and so he goes to Avatar Roku for help. He goes to Avatar Kyoshi for help. He goes to a bunch of his past lives for help, and they all give him varying answers that like, You have to determine your own path, basically. And Kyoshi also says, like, I didn't technically kill Shin the Conqueror, but I also don't see a difference. And
yeah, I
would have done it anyways.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I was ready to kill that guy.
And
don't you remember at the trial where I confessed to killing the guy?
And then I love that Aang's like, I knew I shouldn't have gone to Kyoshi. Like,
yeah. Fucking Kyoshi.
Yeah. Like, what a great, like, character that she could even be, like, used as a side running gag,
Mm-hmm.
Like, that just makes me happy.
Well, again, it's just the depth of the show is that we, like, even, like, now I'm reading the book, so, like, I'm learning a lot more, but we know so much about Kyoshi, and she's been dead for, like, 200 years. And she's like a pivotal character in the show where it's like, that we all get like, yeah, Kyoshi probably not the best person to turn to advice for this kind of stuff. But even Roku's like, it's like, look, I went easy on my friend. I kind of wish I had killed the guy. Like, he doesn't outright say that.
but it is something that is in the forefront of these avatars' mind, because even the waterbending guy we've never met before until right now, he says that he was go with the flow. The world kind of sorted its own problems out, but my like basically not, I don't know if it's safe to say like apathy, but like he kind of let stuff slide for a lot, and it cost him a woman he loved, someone he cared
And
about.
her, that was her face that the face stealer took.
Yeah, which is really fucked up. Well, there's a lot to unpack there, but every avatar, even the airbending one before that, tells Aang that the needs of the world will outweigh the needs of like the individual,
Well, I
even
love
his
that
own
moment
beliefs.
where it's just like he's like, I'm asking all these avatars. I gotta ask another air nomad because they'll get it. And it's just this conversation where it's like, hey, I thought I was supposed to be selfless, and I thought I wasn't supposed to, not have any material possessions. And it's like, yeah, people can achieve enlightenment through that, but you're the avatar. You kind of have a responsibility. It's almost as if with great power comes great responsibility. Roku tells him you must be decisive. Kyoshi's like, only justice will bring peace. Everyone else is like, you gotta make decisions. And Kyoshi's like, justice! It's because Aang's trying to like a little bit like pass the buck, just not be like, I don't, like he doesn't want to make this decision. And they're like, dude, you're gonna have to make it at some point. Didn't you see The Irishman? It's bad to go through life having other people tell you what to do.
And so Aang has to make a decision.
And he says to Momo, who's there to talk to, and he says, I guess I don't have a choice, Momo. I have to kill the Fire Lord. So Aang didn't really pick up on what they were trying to teach him.
Yeah. But in all fairness, they're all speaking very vaguely.
Yeah.
you know.
Kyoshi was, I gotta be honest, Kyoshi was pretty direct.
No, Kyoshi was the one direct one, but she's also like kill, like bloodthirsty looks in her eyes,
I wouldn't go that far, but she's like the Batman of the.
I was about to say, yeah. She's like BVS Batman. Like, kill.
Dirty Harry, but it's Avatar Kyoshi.
That's what the red on her face paint is. It's blood from her victims.
Yeah. The paint actually does symbolize something. I can't remember what it was, though.
Oh, really? I don't want to be offensive then. Never mind.
Yeah. No, it's not offensive. Just in the book, I'm talking about in the book, it symbolizes something.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it probably does in culture, but we're both ignorant, so.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Did they make you read Memoirs of a Geisha in high school or middle school?
No.
I mean, that's one that I guess a lot of people read.
Mm.
I was assigned to read it and then didn't.
Oh, okay, good.
Because I used to do that a lot.
I never had a problem reading. I had a problem finishing assignments.
When they started giving me good books to read, I read them.
Funny how that works, huh? But Aang notices that the cliffs are getting bigger by the ocean, and then he realizes that the island is moving, and it's an animal. And so he goes around to see its face, and it's something called a lion turtle.
It's a fucking giant-ass lion turtle.
Now, this is a point of controversy for this episode.
Yeah, because he goes like, lion turtle, what do I do? And the lion turtle goes, and then you're like, oh, I hope he said something enlightening.
I didn't have a problem understanding him.
I did not understand him until I watched it this time with subtitles.
Okay. The lion turtle is voiced by Kevin Michael Richardson. That's just how he talks.
Yeah, I know.
So it's a great voice.
There's something with him where Mark Hamill never won like a daytime Emmy or whatever the fuck for voicing the Joker all those years. And then Kevin Michael Richardson voiced the Joker once and won.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of sad. Good voice actor though, so whatever.
Yeah, he's great. He pops up in tons of shit.
You've heard him. If you've watched anything, you've heard him. But let's talk about the lion turtle, because do you know about the origins of this creature? Like in the not about the history in the fictional show. I mean like the actual production stuff. No.
No.
Okay. So in the original unaired pilot of Avatar: The Last Airbender, they do the opening, right? The water, earth, fire, air, and in between but behind Aang, because Aang is the representation of air in that too, when he's swinging around in his little air ball. There's a lion turtle statue. Now, apparently, they had really filled out like the lore and like the history of the world, and the lion turtles and the origins of the Avatar were going to be like tied together, and they just couldn't fit it into the narrative of this show. Now, Legend of Korra fans and for new listeners and viewers know that we will be revisiting that idea later. But they wanted to work it in somehow, and so leading into the finale, when they came across the Ozai problem, I guess, they were like, "Oh, we can use this to like help explore and explain like how Aang could defeat the Fire Lord without killing him." It still does feel a little out of left field though, just because they had
know.
it. You know, I mean, I like it. I don't think it's like a complete Deus Ex Machina or whatever, because it's like literally the world telling Aang like there's another way to do things. You're right, but you have to like choose to do them. You can't just sit around and have that decision be made for you, you know?
Yeah. I think the thing that's a little cheap is that they just cut out the part where he tells them what to do. Like, it's like his whole thing where he's like, the true mind, blah, blah, blah. And like gives like a whole speech, and then he taps him on the forehead and sends him on his way. And then later we find out that when he tapped him on the forehead, he was like, here's how you do energy bending.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't just put that in the beginning.
I don't know. It does a little bit remind me of the turtle in the book It.
Well, that is like an idea. I think more common in like Asian cultures, you know. So like Stephen King ripped off Avatar, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, it's also in what do you call it? In a lot of like Native American cultures, there's a lot of stuff about turtles too.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe like one of them has the. I think this actually is in multiple creation myths across the globe, where it's the world is on the back of a turtle. Like that's a very popular idea.
Mm-hmm. It's also just very cool looking. Like,
oh, it's great.
Yeah, it's and I love the look and the design of the lion turtle. It's the only thing in the series that's like hand painted versus like hand drawn. So there's this nice.
I know
like,
they definitely give him like a different vibe, so he feels otherworldly.
Yeah, and it's terrific, and it's like, oh, that's why they couldn't like meet Aang. It's this thing between like the spirit realm and the real world. It's something else entirely. It's like that connective tissue to everything, you know.
Have you read It?
I have. I still think it could make a good movie.
Yes. Too bad. It doesn't the troll show up and is like man, once you start dealing with this cosmic shit, it gets fucking crazy. It like doesn't help him.
Well, it's just Stephen King being a fucking weirdo. That's like the problem.
His whole thing is that like God exists but like doesn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what the turtle kind of is. Which, you know, I mean that would answer a lot of questions. But this turtle does something. Taps him on the forehead. And what does he say? True mind can weather all the lies and illusions without being lost. The true heart can touch the poison of hatred without being harmed. Since beginningless time, darkness thrives in the void, but always yields to purifying light. So what he's basically saying is nut up or shut up.
Yeah, I mean that's the gist of it, but it isn't that like that's kind of like the most persevering saying like in history, right? Yeah. Like evil thrives when good men stand by and do nothing kind of thing.
Well, I think that's what's so fucked up about being alive right now is that we're all kind of like there's such a void in the world right now where there's just like everyone feels powerless and everyone doesn't know what to do, and it feels like all our actions add up to nothing, And it's that feeling that is kind of bringing us down, I think. Like, we've been very doom and gloom on the show, but it's important to kind of realize that to feel that way plays into the hands of the Donald Trumps of the world.
Not to make comparisons to turtle gods and shit like that, but even without them realizing it, it does give them power, you know, to have, like, society en masse be, like, exhausted and tired and, you know, frankly scared, right? And that doesn't invalidate your feelings like that, you know, like...
Why do you think they give no one in this country any safety net? Because they know that if we're always frightened that we're going to fall, we won't rise up. I mean, that's really what it is. Keep the peasants busy. That's capitalism, baby. Hooah.
And the class conflict kind of comes up a little bit in this, but we'll get back to that a little later.
But it's also, and again, it brings it back to, like, when everyone's planning on what to do, Saga's like, look, we don't know if Aang's going to show up, but we should act like he's gonna.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we got to go after the airships, because he's going to need that help. And that's very Lord of the Rings. In, like, there's, you know, everyone's like, well, Frodo probably isn't going to make it, but we have to keep acting like he is.
I mean, it's them holding on to hope, you know? Like,
yeah,
it's a leap of faith. Like, it's the ultimate leap of faith. They literally make a leap onto the airship, you know?
Mm.
Like, the blind girl literally guides their leap of faith. Like,
yeah, just launches them into the sky.
Yeah, because Toph can do that because she's so awesome.
Because she's fucking tough, man.
Can't stop the Toph. I'm telling you, there's going to be a shirt. I'm going to make that shirt. I'm going to open up a shop just for that shirt.
I'm the Toph bitch.
What?
Remember, I'm the Juggernaut
I know.
bitch?
I didn't. Why would you bring that up? Toph is cooler than the Juggernaut.
Remember when that was like a funny meme, and then they put it in the movie?
Oh yeah. Auteur Brett Ratner.
Yeah.
Brett Ratner.
Whatever happened? I'm sure that guy's doing well right now.
Well.
Piece of shit. And now we're going into the Inferno.
Yeah. I don't know why. I don't like this title. This is a nitpick. It gets
a little strange because it's... Right now we've been following Aang's journey and whatnot, and now it just turns into this Werner Herzog talking about volcanoes thing. Azula is already losing her mind.
It starts getting more sad with her. Like, she's just...
Yeah.
There's nothing grounding her. The weight of her, like, privilege and fear-mongering goals have just, like, completely incapacitated her for, like, any sense of, like, thought or empathy. And that's really sad. You know?
Well, it's like getting to the finish line, but you spent the whole race punching everyone. And then you don't know why there's no one there to congratulate you.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of that there. But man, she's taking it out on everyone. I felt bad for that girl that got banished. I hope that got sorted out later.
Yeah, I hope a lot of this got sorted out, except for like the Dai Li.
I mean, yeah, fuck the Dai Li.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I have no opinion on the twins.
Oh, I mean, I think they'll be like whoever rules they'll like support. You know, like they're very much like loyal to the monarchy, not so much the individual, which does not make them like positive figures.
They're the Lord Varys of the Fire Nation.
Yeah. Azula, I want you to serve the realm. Like that. Fuck, that first season's so good.
I know. Varys is like my favorite character in the books too. Like, and that performance is like amazing. And man, did they fuck his character up.
I know.
Like, that went from being like the smartest guy in the room to like the dumbest guy on earth.
It's not great.
Not great. But Azula is visited by the spirit of her mother.
Yeah.
In the mirror.
It's Spider-Man.
Much like the Green Goblin.
Yep, it's Spider-Man too.
We can eliminate those that stand in our way.
It's the opposite of Spider-Man 2.
Look, I love his performance in The Lighthouse. That scene's incredible.
Well, I love that Willem Dafoe has just gone on record saying, like, comparing that role to Shakespeare. Like that's still one of the things he'll talk more
know.
positively about, like of his career, and that just makes me happy.
Do you know how much I sacrificed? He played Jesus Christ, and he talks up the Green Goblin more.
I know, it's so good. It's so great. I love movies.
But this is the first time we kind of get more of a look. I think Azula's made some hints about her relationship with her mother at this point, but this is probably like the biggest one.
Yeah, like all the hints prior to that, while we've been like kind of struggling with conflicting feelings about her as a character, right? While still being generally like very impressed by the character, I think this shows that at least they were aware of it by the end, or at least tried to fill in some more of the gaps, you know? Like there's a real tragedy in that she never was allowed to let her shields down, you know? And now she's by herself. And
with a lot of talk about choice this episode, she specifically says to her ghost mother, "What choice do I have? Trust people?" Like she can't even imagine that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just sad. And she brings up May and Ty Lee abandoning her. But yeah, so fighting with the ghost mirror. So it's really her fighting with herself, because, you know, it's pretty, like, blatant that it's like, oh, she's not fighting her mother, she's fighting, like, her idea of her mother. So you have to take everything the mother says with a grain of salt, because it's really Azula.
I think it's similar to the inner turmoil that Zuko had back when he went into his emotional coma.
Yeah, he was in a medical coma.
Yeah, but like whereas Zuko goes into like, you know, the coma because he's working out his feelings towards being good, I think Azula can't allow herself just even that second of like hesitation, because she's been built to be like this master assassin, basically, like someone who's only built to rule with fear and power, to the point that there's nothing supporting that, you know, like she's eating herself basically, you know. And there's even that it's kind of a funny line when she's like, okay, Hera, prepare to meet your doom, but it's also deeply sad because she literally doesn't know how to like process existence without like overpowering something. That's all she knows how to do.
She almost killed those kids at the volleyball game.
Yeah, right? Like that's why the beach is like such a fucking great episode. It's like, oh yeah, these people can't be kids. They don't know how to like live without war. It's sad.
Yeah.
And this is just the end point of that, where Azula has everything she wants and it doesn't matter because her life has not been sustainable.
But is this saying that deep down she really just wants the love of her mother?
I don't know. Maybe that's what they're going for, because it is the finite point we get with Azula emotionally, right?
Well, because Azula's like, I know you hate me, and then it's like, no, I don't, I love you. And so it's this weird thing of like, she's trying to, I guess it was this thing where it's like, if she couldn't win her mother's approval, she'd rather push her away. And she also couldn't do that, because like her mother still loves her on some level.
I don't know. That's something to think about then. And that's why she like, you know, she preferred her father, you know? She preferred being in his graces.
See him where it's like, good job, Azula, we should burn everyone.
Yeah. And like, you know, they never have this conversation, and I don't know the logistics of the marriage between, you know, Ozai and his wife. But the fact that she would marry a man like that, you know, unless it was like a forced marriage.
It's heavily implied it was a forced marriage.
Okay.
I mean, and I think the comics confirmed it, because remember, she is the descendant of Avatar Roku.
That's right. Okay. Oh, so then there's this whole idea then introduced with that like it could be about trying to like wipe out like the Avatar lineage. Like literally they're trying to do that, but like even the bloodline, you know, they're trying to like overpower that.
It's even like she's like, you know, it's eugenics. We'll get more into that in the Korra, but there's definitely stuff about like certain people having relationships can produce certain type of benders, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that raises a lot of questions. So it was like the Fire Lord was like, well, I have kids, they should marry the descendants of the last Avatar. And that's where I think the rift between Azula and her mother exists, where Azula probably had to grow up watching her mother basically be, you know, a prisoner in her own marriage. And Azula probably resented that and was like, I'm not going to be like that. and I think that's what drove her in the direction that she was in, but she's kind of come to find out that she's in her own type of prison. And worst of all, she made it for herself.
But even then, there's still that element of like she kind of had to, or at least she felt that she had to, right? Like you're talking about, but it's still built around like this false idea of freedom.
But think about how different it could have been if she had stood by Zuko from the start.
Oh yeah. I mean, she does make these choices at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, I think she had more choice than maybe she even realized. And again, she needs her own journey, which is why it's a little disappointing when Iroh's like, nah, she's crazy. It was like, if I were to do a movie sequel to this, it would center around Azula a little bit.
Well, here, this conversation kind of reminds me of like way back in the day when we talked about Alien 3. And it's like, oh yeah, that's a great ending for Ellen Ripley. It's tragic, but I think it's a great ending. But it's also like, oh, it's also one of the only female action heroes in movie history whose ending is death.
Yeah.
Maybe there's like, that's something to talk about at least.
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of where we're leaning with Azula at least. Mm-hmm. More complicated here because there's like an extra 20 hours behind that character.
Yes. Although I wonder how much screen time, if we add it all up, who has more screen time? Ripley in the 3 movies or Azula over 2 seasons?
Only on the Waffle Press retrospective could you come up with a question like this.
Hey, it's an important question.
It is.
I ask the real questions. The ones the fucking, I don't know.
Okay, and yep, there was nothing there.
I was trying to think of like what Jesse Ventura says, and I couldn't think of it.
I ain't got time to bleed.
I've seen the documents. I was a governor, a Navy SEAL, and I represented the United States in the Royal Rumble against Hulk Hogan and Kevin Nash. Saki, Suki, and Toph, they all jump on the airship.
Yeah, and Toph gets to move around with like a metal Batman type armor shit, and it's really cool. That's a really cool image.
There you go. Can't stop the Juggernaut.
Yeah, that's her. Can't stop the Toph moment. Oh, and there's this great comedy beat where Sokka's like, all right, take us down to the water. I got an idea. And I just like that in the middle of all that, this dude's like, I can't believe the captain remembered my birthday. Like, the comedy bits from like some of the random Fire Nation soldiers are my favorite stuff in this series.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's like Stormtroopers too, where they have funny moments.
But yeah, I just like that bit where they dump the army into the ocean.
There's also that good bit where they're like, take the wheel, and she's like, oh yeah, let the blind girl fly.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
But also, I get it's a kid's show, can't really poke too many holes in it. But, and also, like, they make it pretty clear that they're fighting over water, so when all these ships crash, we don't have to think about if anyone died.
Mm-hmm.
That's kid show logic. But, you're wearing that much armor, falling into water, you're gonna drown.
And not only that, not all those ships land in the water. Because, like, as we're about to see, or about to discuss, the Fire Nation airships do start, like, unleashing hell on Earth against, like, the plant life and all that shit. And so some of those definitely crash into the canyons. And, Sokka, Suki, and Toph realize that they're not going to catch up to the Fire Lord ship. Like, oh my god, it's ending. And, of course, they see Aang there. He takes out the ship. That ship crashes and it kind of lightly explodes. It doesn't, like, evaporate or anything. But,
I don't even remember it exploding. I just remember it landing on the rocks.
It lands on the rocks, sure, but, like, it's on fire.
Yeah.
And,
well, that's not how Zeppelins crash. Like, in real life. It's a kid show,
I was like,
It's a thing where it's like, all that helium, all that gas, it's like, if there's any combustion, the whole thing just goes up.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't that be, like, the funniest fucking endings? Like, all right, let's do our Fire Nation plan to burn the planet. The moment they spark up, the fleet explodes midair.
Oh, the humanity!
But no, Aang's there, and Sokka's excited, and you're excited as an audience member. And when that ship crashes, those people died, though. Yeah, like, probably. I know Aang's like, I don't want to kill anyone. Like, those people are dead.
But I'm also saying, that guy whose birthday it was probably drowned.
No, the guy was like, happy birthday. So that was the same dude.
Yeah, in real life, he would
Oh,
drown.
oh yeah, no, in real life.
When
he
the
doesn't.
Lusitania sank, all the rich people drowned because they were wearing heavy coats.
You bringing that up now?
I'm just because I have it in the back of my mind, and it's just I gotta throw it. I read a whole fucking book on the Lusitania. It was a boring ass book, but now I know facts about it. So,
Oh, okay. Well, that makes it better. There's a very scary image when the Fire Lord jumps off the airship and starts launching himself to confront Aang. I don't know why, but that's a very like. It's just a scary image to me. Azula's about to be crowned the new Fire Lord. And then Zuko and Katara show up on Appa's back and interrupt the whole ceremony of 3 people in Azula.
yeah, she got rid of everyone, which is also the like it works as something her character would do, but it's also a good way to be like, all right, here's how they were able to break into the Fire Nation palace without any resistance.
Yeah, because then, like, while it would make for a really cool set piece to do another showdown with the Dai Li, this episode's so busy already, you don't need it. You don't need it. Yeah. In the fictional, mythical version of this, that's 25 episodes instead of 20. You could probably fit that in somewhere. But,
maybe, but no, this works too.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a criticism, not even a nitpick, just something I thought of.
Something else should have happened to the Dai Li, though.
Yeah, they kind of get away scot-free here.
They kind of like. I hope that the Dai Li were abolished. Do they pop up in Korra?
I think they do.
I know Ba Sing Se pops up.
Yeah.
But
a lot of Earth Kingdom politics in that show towards the end, but we'll get there.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
But here, Katara came along because even Zuko was like, "Oh, I don't think I could beat Azula by myself." But then when she challenges him to an Agni Kai, he's like, "There's something off about her. I think I could take her." And then they cut back to her, and she's just like, this disheveled mess. And he's like, "I can't put my finger on it."
I sense something different about Azula. It's like her eyes are like all fucking like bugged out.
I know. That always just gets me. It's not always intentional with the show.
Her hair is disheveled. She's clearly been cutting it herself. There were no palace guards. Something has changed around here. Yeah, Zuko and his brilliant powers of deduction.
I don't know why these characters... the men in this specifically are very... they share a brain cell.
Yeah, they're slow on the uptake. I mean, there's earlier when they're like, hey, we should... When Zuko's like... To Aang's like, we should show Ozai the picture of him as a baby, and then all the good memories will turn him good. And Aang's like, you think so? Zuko's like, no, you idiot. Like,
this might be an unfair criticism because Katara's basically been co-leading the entire series up to this point. But I do kind of think, while watching it, I never have a problem with it. It's only when I kind of look back, it always feels weirder in my memory, like the pacing of it, like, oh no, it's not really Zuko and Katara's fight, it's Zuko's. Oh no, it's actually Katara's fight. When I'm watching it, there's no problems, and I think it's just like on paper, structurally, and like the pacing of this episode is a little odd with that,
Yeah,
I guess it kind of feels like
Katara does take a backseat.
Yeah, if it were explained to me, I'd be like, oh no, they fucked it up, and then I watch it and I'm like, oh no, this is great. So it's not really something that bothers me. It's just like, I don't know how they pulled it off.
At least Katara rightfully points out where it's like, she's baiting you. Like, she wants like a one-on-one. Like, we should just both take her out. And Zuko's like, no, my honor. So it's like, you don't understand. I'm going to go into another medical coma if I don't find it.
I do like that they end up healing each other, though, or saving each other,
Yes.
That's a great end to their little arc.
That is a dark scene where Azula's just like, I'm gonna fucking kill Katara.
Yeah, because even though, like, in the fight, it looks like Zuko can actually take her, like, because she's just lost it, unfortunately, right?
Yeah.
And so she has to basically cheat and try to kill Katara.
And she doesn't get her, but she hits Zuko, and that makes her laugh.
Yeah, and then she's just full-on Joker laugh.
Yeah, she's falling all over herself.
Yeah, which is also a pretty scary scene. The villains are scary in this episode.
Yeah.
It's a great edit between Azula's laugh and when we cut back to Aang and the Fire Lord. But we're still going to save that little confrontation for a second. I don't know if this means anything, but Zuko and Aang have matching scars on opposite parts of their torsos. Aang has it in the back from Azula. Zuko has it in the front from Azula. It's kind of like, oh, they're still connected
for life.
Yeah.
I guess.
Blood brothers. I don't know.
Man, Zuko got a lot of scars by the end.
Yeah, I know. Like, he's just like a scar. Like, by the end of his life, he's just going to be like a husk.
Yeah, it's going to be like Dr. Chilton at the end of Hannibal.
I know. It's literally just like a torso and a head. Sorry to bring up something like that on the Avatar show.
No, I think if you love Avatar, you'd love Hannibal. The overlap should be a circle.
Don't do that.
Why?
Because it's a little
Why?
heavier. The fight is never as cool as you kind of expect it to be. It just kind of revels in like the sadness of it all, you know?
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of the right choice, considering like what they've shown Azula to do. It's not like a victory that they have to like beat her down. It's
a sad thing where it's like even if Azula beats them, and even if the Fire Lord wins, like he's coming back and he's not going to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Like you fired everyone.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I have to find a new Fire Lord. And then she goes to the dungeons. What a father of the year.
I think it's also worth noting that in the fight between Zuko and Azula, more damage is done to like the capital of the Fire Nation than like the actual invasion force like a month ago or whatever.
Yeah,
and I think that's intentional, you know?
Yeah,
like
that fits. Well, it's really like if the Fire Lord wins, he's only going to kill the future of the entire world. No real world parallels to that. But the Fire Lord shows up, flies over to Aang, and just like such a like perfect line where it's again like this is their first time meeting. They even make a point to be like the first time they actually see each other. And there's just this perfect line that comes from the Fire Lord where he's like, "The universe delivered you to me." It's just like the perfect insight to what type of asshole this guy is.
Well, it's the opposite of like Aang's belief in like faith and destiny, you know?
Yeah.
Where Aang is like, oh, this is like what the world needs, and the Fire Lord is like, oh, this is what I need.
Yeah. Aang's like, we need the world, and the Fire Lord is like, the world needs me. Aang gives him a chance. It's like, we don't have to fight.
Mm-hmm. Like, he just doesn't want to, and I think that's always such a compelling like thing about Aang as a character, you know? You brought it up earlier, but it really is a Superman thing, where it's like, hey, like, we don't have to do this. Like, there's problems here that we don't have to fight through, in the traditional sense, at least. And it's such a perfect like setting of the stage, and then it just quickly escalates because Fire Lord's like, I literally have all the power in the world. Like, it doesn't matter what you say. Like, I'm gonna kill you now because you're 12 and I'm an adult.
Well, the big moment that really happens in the fight is that Aang has a chance to kill the Fire Lord with lightning and chooses not to.
Immediately, the Fire Lord used that to his advantage, like everyone said he would. And for like a minute there, Aang basically has no like comeback plan. Like, he stops himself from hitting the water at like breakneck speeds, but like the Fire Lord's just like unleashing on him by that point, and he has to like curl up into a ball to just like get a moment of reprieve, basically, and there's no way out of it. As we head into the final episode, Avatar Aang, part 4 of Sozin's Comet, Ozai starts wailing on this little rock that Aang's hiding behind, and says that like wiped out the air nomads. They didn't deserve to exist in his world, and that he's going to join them because he's going to die.
What a fun guy.
That is really like, let's see what we got there. That's ethnic cleansing, child murder, more genocide. There's a lot packed into a couple sentences.
He's a guy where it's like, you know, like even in America, it's like we look back and it's like, oh man, we really like even people that like defend this country, they mostly just don't want us to talk about our bad past. There's very few people that are like, actually, the things we did were good. But this guy's like, yeah, my grandfather wiped out the air nomads. He had the right idea.
I know we've had this discussion already, but like I really want to just highlight that sometimes you don't need that villain who's like, oh, they have this tragic backstory or they have something more going on beneath the surface. Sometimes someone is just that bad, and they sometimes just need to be beaten because
Yeah.
there's not much else you can get from a dude who's like, no, actually, ethnic cleansing was good for my world. Like, there's kind of no coming back from a statement like that.
It is that thing of just like, we're going to challenge you and be like, this guy's a piece of shit. And the world probably would be better off if he's dead. I mean, we're given every piece of evidence we need.
This is why we need Momo with a gun.
That is a sad moment, though, where he tells Momo to fly. Like, all right, Momo, you got to go now.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that also might be the last time we see each other. And if Aang fails, that's the last of the air nomad culture. You know, there's a lot in that moment.
Yeah, but Momo can carry it on.
With a gun.
Yeah. Momo's back, and this time... That would be great.
The Last Airbender 2, Judgment Day. Should we even check in on Ba Sing Se? All they do is kind of win.
Yeah, they take back Ba Sing Se. It's pretty cool to see Iroh burn the Fire Nation flag, though.
Oh, yeah, no, it's a big moment, but it's nice.
Yeah.
It's not played like a big moment. It just is one. Like, that's how far he's come from his days as General Iroh, you know?
Good for Iroh.
Yeah.
See, even war criminals can be redeemed.
It's a complicated message there, but at least he never believed in, like, ethnic cleansing, I guess. Or no, wait, I guess technically he did.
Did he?
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but there is that flashback where he's writing Zuko and Azula the letter, and he's like, oh, I can't wait to show you the city someday if we don't burn it down first. Ha 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 ha.
It feels more like he's just not a guy who thinks about the consequences of his actions when he's younger.
That tracks with the character. Like, ethnic cleansing might be a little much for him.
Yeah, there was never like a
is bad.
I mean, but who knows? When he was a kid, maybe he was like, grandfather was right. We took out the air nomads. That was the right move.
Yeah, and obviously that's, like, the wrong thing to learn, but, like, that's what he's growing up in.
They also teach in the Fire Nation that the air nomads had a military.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You get the idea that Iroh learned a lot by traveling the world, you know? And the people in the Fire Nation have not had that luxury because they're like, oh, we're the best. That's all we need.
Yeah. Yeah, Iroh had the privilege of some introspection that was deprived from the people his people conquered.
Yeah.
Oh, Iroh. Well, at least he's like, I'm just going to open a tea shop.
Yeah. That's all I want to do the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. Good for him.
We can cut back to Sokka and Suki, I guess.
Okay.
They get separated, right?
Yeah, they get separated because they start using the airship to crash into the other airships, but the airship they're on starts falling apart really fast because, you know, it's crashing into other airships.
Yeah.
And it looks like for a second that Suki might, like, die. And that's
that was pretty brutal.
Yeah, that's pretty scary. But no, she survives. Tells them to keep going because the bit they're on is still falling apart. And it's basically just like a nonstop sequence of close calls for that group. And it's like, okay, we're on this airship now. We can crash into this one. Okay, we're on this airship now. Now, Toph, I need you to bend the metal to turn this airship into the other airships. Oh my god, they see us. Okay, then they escape. They fall down. Sokka breaks his leg, which is pretty rough.
Yeah. This comes... he loses both the boomerang and the sword.
Yeah, by a space sword.
And this is the line that, like, broke me while I was watching. And I might have been in a highly emotional state watching it. I'm maybe in a highly emotional state 24/7 these days. But he just says at the top, I don't think Boomerang's coming back, Toph. It looks like this is the end. Holy shit. That was too much.
I'm not even going to make a joke because, like, I'm basically in a highly emotional state all the time now as well. But, like, this finale, like, I'm just nonstop, like, goosebumps on the edge of my seat. Like, whatever adjective surplus word you want to, like, add to being excited about something, like, it's just that good, you know? Where it's, like, every little line, I'm like, oh, I'm crying. Oh, I'm sad. Oh, I'm happy. It just never stops. So...
But just the Sokka to be like, all right, we're going to die now. That was fucked up. Could have done without that. But then Suki comes back.
I'm glad it's there. Yeah, Suki saves them, and it's one of the many cheerworthy moments in this finale.
Suki driving an entire airship by herself.
Yeah, that's so fucking awesome.
I could have used a lot more Suki. Like I said,
yeah, that extended 5 episodes, I'm telling you.
That was my idea. What do you mean you're telling me?
Well, I'm telling you again, because...
Listen, you fuck. Do you want to talk about Azula versus Katara?
Well, there's not a lot, emotionally, I guess, going on there. It's
now it's like Zuko could die. That's
Well, okay, no, Zuko could die, but I'm saying, between Azula and Katara, but I brought up earlier that the class conflict comes back a little bit in this episode, which hasn't been too present, actively, I guess, in the series, in the 3rd season, but it's kind of, just ingrained into the series by that point, so it's, whatever. But, Azula calls her peasant, because lest we forget, Sokka and Katara come from, a tribe of, 30 people in the South Pole, they basically came from,
How dare you live in poverty that my nation caused?
Yeah, that's what she's saying, Azula's saying, basically, and that's, horrible and disgusting.
Can't think of any real-world parallels to that. I'm, looking into cameras that aren't there.
Yeah. But I love how Katara beats her. They keep coming up with new ways to surprise me with the bending in this show. And Katara just keeps she stopped Rain 3 episodes ago, you know?
Yeah.
And now it's here's this, I'm capturing someone in ice, but using my breath to make it a pool of water around myself so I can be mobile.
Starts with the boy in the iceberg, ends with the girl in the iceberg. One thing gotta point out is that Azula moved to kill.
Twice.
She's point blank away from Katara's face when they're frozen.
Yeah. Yeah, she moved to kill Zuko and Katara.
Yeah. It's pretty brutal.
No, it's good. I don't really have a lot to say about this.
Don't you look down on me.
No. What?
You fucker.
No, I just it's a great fight, and there's a lot of emotion behind it, and watching Katara rush over to Zuko to save him is a really nice moment. It's kind of like a culmination of when she first trusted him in the tunnels of Ba Sing Se, and before she got burned. But it's a nice culmination of that.
Watching Azula writhe on the ground as she's chained and is in tears is not a great moment. It's a very sad scene.
No, yeah, and this whole fight with Azula is not exciting. It's sad,
It's going up against someone with just a raw nerve at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that it's not we gotta put her down like a rabid dog, though.
Yeah, that would be weird.
That would be a weird way to end a series. Although he doesn't. Maybe I'm wrong. Zuko does not visit her in prison, right?
Not that we see now.
Yeah. She could have used a little more. Whatever.
I know. I've thought about that a lot.
I would have liked to see Iroh visit her. I think it'd be too much to put on Zuko, but I think Iroh maybe could have passed off some wisdom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, considering he gives wisdom to literally everyone else.
Yeah. Can't give a little bit to his granddaughter.
Niece,
whatever. You also bought her a doll that she clearly wasn't into.
Oh yeah, she burns it.
Yeah.
So.
Maybe listen to her a little bit.
Well, it's that reminder again that these are just kids. They're I think the oldest one is Zuko at 15 or 16, right? And
yeah.
It's that's still not. That's still a baby, still a child.
Yeah, this would be a rough year.
Yeah. What'd you do for your 16th birthday? I don't really want to talk about it, Grandma.
I overthrew a government.
I stopped a genocidal maniac from burning the earth. Oh, that's nice.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
And now I'm a completely normal and stable human being.
There will be no problems in the upbringings of my children because of this. We'll get to that. Anyways. So I guess we could kind of wrap up the Avatar and Ozai fight then.
Yeah. Oh, this episode's called Avatar Aang, by the way.
Aang gets the Avatar state again.
Yep.
Because Ozai almost kills him, and then mid-sentence, Aang grabs him by the beard.
Aang's like whipping like all the elements around him and shit, and just beating the fuck out of Ozai. And
yeah.
He's like, you and your forefathers have devastated the balance of this world. What did you say, the heaviest price or something like that?
Yeah, like, you must pay, like, the ultimate price.
Ultimate price. The ultimate price. And he's about to kill him, and then he pulls back at the last second.
Yep, and he still won't do it.
Even with all the power, you are still weak. Mark Hamill did a great job.
Mark Hamill is fantastic as a voice actor. I love that that's like his second biggest like career thing outside of Luke Skywalker.
It is ballsy to cast him as the villain of this show.
I guess it kind of is.
Because like that's like calling your shot where it's like, we're the next Star Wars. Our hero's literally gonna beat Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, that is kind of... I never thought about that. I was like, oh yeah, that's fun. But I guess in that term, like, that's pretty... Yeah. And I mean, they're not wrong.
And I mean, we're talking about the guy who's like Star Wars A New Hope, and his whole thing is like, I'm gonna destroy Hope. So...
God, that must have been just a fun character to play, right? Like, I mean, I have no interest in ever being an actor, but that must have been fun.
Well, that's also, Mark Hamill, if you listen to interviews with him, at least before the recent shit, he always talked about how he wanted Luke to go to the dark side. Like, he wanted to play evil Luke. And it would be like, and then it would be like, you know, Han Solo and Princess Leia would have to save him or whatever. And so you can maybe feel a little bit of that energy going on here.
Yeah, it would be weird if Luke Skywalker was like this level of evil.
This bad, but you know,
that would be a leap I don't think I could make.
Yeah,
you would need to back that up with some serious shit. But anyways,
the real problem is that he went on that island.
Yeah, and that's why everyone's mad at the second movie and not the first one. That put him there.
It should have been the magic tree that stopped him.
Why is it so tiring to talk about Star Wars now?
Because it's the worst.
Like, I'll talk about Avatar for hours and like, God, that was so much fun. The
disparity between the quality of the work and the quality of the fans, it's like deeper than the Grand Canyon.
Or the Great Divide.
Hey!
Haha, bringing it back to everyone's favorite episode.
Bringing it back to the episode everyone loves to talk about.
Yeah.
Nostalgia Critics' #1 worst episode.
Not the fortune teller, huh?
Nope, he didn't. Not even in the top 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's how wrong he is.
Yeah, you know, he had a list of episodes.
Did they all star like women or something?
You know what?
Look, is the painted lady on there?
Yes.
There it is.
Well,
I calls him like I sees him.
Yeah. Wow.
Thank you. Well,
good on ya, Nostalgia Critic.
No, there's nothing to celebrate here. Fuck him.
It's sad that he watches this show too. It's like when Hunter S. Thompson found out that Nixon was also a football fan.
Aww.
Because it's like, oh God, I like something that Nixon likes.
I guess, yeah, there's a sadness to that, if you want to call it that. Ozai calls Aang weak, and then tries to kill him one last time, and Aang traps him in Earth, and starts overpowering him by energy bending the energy within both of them, and is almost overtaken by Ozai's energy.
Yeah, that's where we get the flashback to the lion turtle. And he says, before the era of the Avatar, we bent not the elements, but the energy within ourselves. To bend one's energy, your own spirit must be unbendable, or you will be corrupted and destroyed. And that's Aang, because he never bent.
Mm-hmm.
He never gave in. He stuck to it.
And he gets to take away Ozai's bending, so he could never use it to hurt anyone ever again.
Hooray!
Yay!
Which is like a fate worse than death for someone like Ozai.
Yeah, which is, I guess, kind of fucked up.
Hey,
But like,
you know,
I'm
Yeah, but
not
that's
I'm not
something that.
endorsing anything easier for him either.
But here's the thing: that's something that he has to get over.
Yo, yeah, yeah. I'm not saying like Aang should feel guilty or anything like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's of his own doing. You know, like
Yeah. Yeah, he did try to commit a genocide.
yeah, and burnt his own son. He's done a lot of bad things. Like basically
Guys,
all the
not.
bad things you could list off, he's probably done.
Look, I don't want to badmouth the guy without him being here, but he made a lot of mistakes.
That wraps up the fight. Aang puts out the fires that were started by Ozai's assault on the Earth Kingdom in the valley. Momo returns. Aang stands triumphantly, and he's regrouped with Sokka, Toph, and Suki. And it's a wonderful little moment where they're all just kind of like dunking on the Fire Lord, and he just like passes out.
I am the Phoenix King. And then he goes into a medical coma.
Because he can't be evil anymore.
It runs in the family.
Then we cut to some time later. Zuko and Aang host a ceremony for Zuko's induction as the new Fire Lord. But Zuko also wants to use it to praise Avatar Aang for his commitment to the world and as the real hero of the day. And it's just this great moment where it's like, wow, look how far these characters have come. Look at all like the friends they've made and all the lives they've changed for the better. And it's a really just beautiful moment. Very Return of the King kind of deal here, you know?
Yeah, without the fact that Frodo had to sail into the west.
Yeah, like Aang can still live in the world, which is nice. It's not a bittersweet ending. It's just sweet. I mean, it is bitter for other people, but at this point, it's just like a nice sense of relief for our central characters.
Zuko also reunites with May.
I have a question about this.
All right.
I think you might feel the same. Zuko's like, "Oh, May, they let you out of prison." It's like, bro, you're the Fire Lord.
Yeah, you made that decision now.
I know. Like, imagine, like, hey, do you want to free May?
Nah.
What do you mean?
Oh, she's still pissed.
So, yeah. Like, that I understand, you know? But, you know, it does play weird, the scene where it's like, they let you out? Like, what?
Yeah, that could have been. That could have used a rewrite. And Ty Lee joins the Kyoshi Warriors.
Yeah, which actually kind of, like, that just makes perfect sense in hindsight, you know?
That fits, but I wish she'd go back to the circus. She seemed happy there.
Oh, she did. But, I mean, maybe she found new, like, life and joy in the Kyoshi Warrior stuff, too. But, again, something we need more perspective on.
Would have been great if we had an episode where we saw that.
Yep. Yes, it would have been. Oh, and we get to see all the fun little supporting characters. Like, basically everyone except for, like, Longshot and Smeller B.
Yeah.
Who we could still presume are dead at this point. I know you said they're in the comics, but, like, in the show, it's not looking good.
Yeah, they're dead.
Aww.
Misaki and Guitar reunite with her father. Yeah, everyone's there. The Game Grumps are there. That's a lot. The Swamp Guy's there. I think I saw Boomy.
I have to go back and watch it for the 20th time now.
A lot of those people were probably just freshly let out of prison.
Yeah. So really, like, all the older people should have, like, crazy long beards and shit.
Yeah.
You know? They've had, like, It's been a while.
Yeah, Odo probably was there.
I forgot.
That would be fucked up though if you get back and it's like, we saved the day, let's let everyone out of prison. And it's like, oh, what's his name? It's like, oh, he died in the prison.
Oh, you know who we never see again? The dude who helped them escape from the boiling rock.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I like that character.
What happened to that fella?
Yeah, like, again, that's not even a nitpick. It's just like, I would have liked to have seen that. You know, just in the background, like most of the people.
That guy, he stood up when he needed to.
Yeah, that counts for something. I mean, that's kind of the message of the show, you know? It's not just Aang saving the world. It's like all these people coming together for, like, the greater good of it, you know?
Absolutely. More importantly, Uncle Iroh gets his tea shop.
Yeah, Uncle Iroh gets his tea shop. Do you want to talk about Zuko going to visit his father or no?
Oh yeah, you should. Yeah, we should talk about that.
All right. Zuko goes to visit his father after the ceremony in prison, and he asks, "Where is his mother?"
But he also says that perhaps some time in here will help you, like you exiling me helped me.
Mm-hmm.
So he does still have hope for his father.
Yeah. And a year ago, he would not have had that, obviously.
Yeah.
But like, the amount of growth that has to like happen over the course of that year is pretty remarkable. And I don't know, it's just
Yeah, that'd be a rough year. That's like a
yeah.
year where it's like every week there's some new horrible thing happening, and it's like you have to process it in your own way. And it's like, well, all right, I've gotten over that one, but at least it's done. And then another fucking awful thing happens, and then like you just
This is
lose
the
all
most
sense
relatable
of
show of all time now.
Yeah, you lose all sense of time. What was really a year feels like it took over 3 years, and yeah, that'd be something.
But Iroh gets his tea shop back in Ba Sing Se, and the central characters and May are all there. So it's Toph,
Central
Momo.
characters and May.
Well, like again, she didn't really get that opportunity, but you know, it's they're all there, and Sokka's painting everyone. Everyone gets one last line together while Sokka's trying to paint everyone terribly. Where Zuko has spiky hair, May looks like a man. I don't even think Appa and Momo are in the picture. Iroh is like, "Hey, I trimmed down. My belly's not that big anymore." And then for some reason, Suki's like firebending in the painting, which is just hysterical. And Aang walks out to the platform, relieved that his journey is complete, at least for now, right? You know, the Avatar's always gonna have to work to better the world around them, but the big conflict has ended, and now they can kind of rest for a while. He's joined by Katara, and you know they hug, and you know she's just as like responsible for saving the world as him because she's the one that broke him out of the ice, and
Yeah,
it's like
they shared this journey.
yeah, and they finally just take a moment and kiss, and it's beautiful, and then you get this glorious shot of Ba Sing Se as the camera tilts up, and it says "The End." And it's one of the greatest endings in television history.
And then 80 or so years later, Aang died.
Yeah. It's actually 70.
All right.
Yeah. Actually, it might be less. Hang on, I gotta check that.
Let's do some math.
I'm not
That's
gonna do it
what
right
everyone
now. I'm not gonna do it right now because this is the longest episode of this entire podcast.
So I don't know about you, Diego, but I really like this show.
Yep, it's pretty good.
It's a pretty good show.
It's one of those shows where, while we're talking about it, I'm kind of choking up every once in a while. That's how good it is. And I could talk about it a lot more, honestly.
Well, we've only talked about it for 3 hours today.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, not literally today. I need to eat and shit.
Plus we spent about a half hour beforehand talking about Lost for some reason.
That's on you.
That's entirely on me.
Yeah.
Better final, Lost or Avatar: The Last Airbender?
Avatar: The Last Airbender. Avatar: The Last Airbender's finale is like top 5.
Better final, Seinfeld or Lost?
Lost.
Oh.
But I think both of those are controversial for some reason. Well, I don't know. We could probably talk a little bit more about this show. Probably with another episode detailing our top 5 episodes of the series.
I'm sure people would love to hear that.
Doesn't matter. We're going to do it anyways. And then that also allows us to put off one more episode before recording.
Well, no, then we can go straight into Legend of Korra.
We have to do the other one too.
What other one?
The movie.
Zack Snyder's The Last Airbender.
No.
Thing just straight up kills Zuko.
And is there anything else to say about the series as a whole before we move on from this section of the retrospective?
Don't trust Whitey.
I guess that could kind of be the message too. So until next time, Matt, where can the people find you?
I'm at EmperorOTN1 at twitter.com.
And you could find me at the Diego Crespo. Check out the Waffle Press on Twitter, YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, and Patreon, where you'll be able to get early access to the other episodes we're recording for this retrospective.
Ho, 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 ho.
Yeah, there's a lot to go over still. But thank you everyone for tuning into this for the longest retrospective so far that we're surprisingly on schedule for. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We have been professionally unprofessional.